Give me a mason jar and 5 minutes. 14 days later, you'll be harvesting fresh basil, mint, and oregano that pack 42 times more antioxidant power than the wilted herbs sitting in your fridge right now. No soil, no garden, and zero sunlight required. NASA is actually using this exact same tech on the International Space Station right now. Researchers found that just 1 ounce of fresh oregano has more antioxidant power than a whole pound of blueberries. Stores charge $3 for a tiny plastic pack containing less than what you'll grow in a single week from 1 jar and a $3 seed packet. There are 2 big reasons why folks aren't growing unlimited fresh herbs at home. One involves a 5,000-year-old lie about what a garden needs to look like. The other is a billion-dollar industry that profits when you believe fresh herbs need farmland, plastic packaging, and expensive shipping. By the end of this video, I'll show you the exact 5-minute setup that turns any container into a living herb factory that never stops producing. But first, you need to understand what is actually inside these leaves and why the most powerful food pharmacy ever measured is hiding in plain sight at your local hardware store. I've dug through many sources. If you've ever stood in the store watching $3 packs of sad wilting basil slide into your cart and thought there must be a better way, stick with me and subscribe for more farming secrets. There's a category of plants so ancient that Sumerian healers were prescribing them on clay tablets over 5,000 years ago. They are so powerful that modern researchers are finding natural compounds inside them that actually help fight cancer. These plants are so easy to grow, they make the entire fresh produce supply chain look like an expensive joke. I'm talking about real herbs, not those dried, dusty jars sitting in your spice rack. I mean, living, breathing, fresh herbs growing continuously in your home with no soil and no sunlight. The story of how humanity went from building entire civilizations around these plants to forgetting we could grow them in a simple jar is one of the strangest tales you've ever heard. Now here is where it starts getting weird. Around 1500 BC in ancient Egypt, a physician put together one of the most important documents in human history. The Ebers Papyrus was a 68-foot scroll containing over 850 plant-based remedies for everything from infections to pain. Garlic, aloe, and dozens of herbs we still use today were cataloged with detailed instructions for their preparation. But believe it or not, that papyrus wasn't even the oldest record. In Mesopotamia, the study of medicinal herbs goes back over 5,000 years to Sumerian tablets listing hundreds of healing plants. In ancient India, the Vedic texts called these herbs sacred tools for human health. In China, Emperor Shen Nung cataloged many plant medicines around 2500 BC. Every major civilization in history eventually arrived at the exact same conclusion. There is something truly extraordinary locked inside the leaves of these plants. They didn't have fancy labs. They didn't have any microscopes. They simply observed that people who ate fresh herbs stayed healthier, recovered faster, and lived much longer than those who didn't. It took modern science until the 21st century to finally explain why. And what those researchers found really should have changed everything. In 2001, the USDA published the ORAC database measuring antioxidant capacity in hundreds of foods. ORAC stands for Oxygen Radical Absorbance Capacity. It measures how well a food stops the free radicals that damage your cells and speed up aging and disease. The results should have been big news on every front page. Herbs and spices didn't just rank well, they dominated the entire database so thoroughly that they made every other food category look tiny and insignificant. Ground oregano scored over 200,000 ORAC units per 100 grams. Blueberries, which we all call a superfood, only scored around 4,600. Just let that sink in for a minute. Ounce for ounce, oregano has roughly 42 times the antioxidant power of those blueberries. Fresh basil scored 4,800 even before the drying process concentrated its compounds. Thyme and mint scored in that same stratosphere, so hit that like button to join us. Let me tell you, the top tier of antioxidants is all about herbs and spices, not fancy plastic bottles or lab extracts, but plants you and I grow on our kitchen counters in 2 weeks. Those numbers were just beginning. Scientists around the globe started isolating the specific compounds that make these measurements so incredibly high. Honestly, what they found reads like a pharmaceutical wish list. Inside rosemary, basil, oregano, sage, and lemon balm, I saw they found rosmarinic acid. This polyphenol is so strong, it has become a top-studied natural compound in nutrition today. Research in a major nutrition journal found that rosmarinic acid actually stopped several human cancer cell lines from growing. Brain studies showed it protected our neurons from oxygen deprivation, the kind of damage stroke victims face. Clinical trials on patients with skin issues showed that putting rosmarinic acid on the skin significantly reduced itching and redness. This compound also showed it can fight bacteria, fungi, and inflammation across dozens of peer-reviewed scientific studies. Here is a detail that really stopped me in my tracks. Rosmarinic acid isn't found in just one rare exotic jungle plant. It is the main phenolic compound in almost every common kitchen herb we grow today. Rosemary, basil, oregano, sage, thyme, lemon balm, marjoram, and mint all have huge, healthy amounts. My medicine cabinet was sitting in my herb garden this entire time. It gets stranger. In oregano specifically, I saw that researchers found crazy high levels of a compound they call carvacrol. A study showed that carvacrol had powerful effects against the growth of human breast cancer. Separate research showed that oregano extract calmed down the inflammatory responses that drive so many of our chronic diseases. The levels in fresh oregano were so high that researchers now call it one of the most promising sources for medicine and food we have available to us right now. This isn't a claim. Subscribe now. These are peer-reviewed findings from major universities and research teams all across Europe and Asia. Like the video, because your kitchen garden really matters now. Every single one of these studies tested their compounds in fresh or recent herbs. The reason is simple and bad for the grocery industry. The moment I cut an herb from the living plant, its healing compounds start to degrade. Vitamin C breaks down within hours. Aromatic oils just evaporate. Polyphenol levels drop every day the herb spends in a truck or on a shelf. Studies on parsley, coriander, rosemary, dill, oregano, and thyme show fresh herbs always beat out the dried ones easily. The difference between an herb I picked 5 seconds ago and one shipped 1,500 miles is not a small thing at all. It is the difference between a living pharmacy and an expired prescription. Now here is where the story leaves Earth literally. In May of 2014, NASA put a growth chamber called Veggie into the space station. It was about suitcase-sized and used LED lights to grow plants in zero gravity. By 2015, astronauts were eating red lettuce grown entirely up in orbit. That was the first fresh food eaten in space that was not from the Earth. NASA scientist Gioia Massa identified herbs like mint and basil as the most important space crops. She was blunt. On long missions to Mars, the vitamins in prepackaged food start to fail. Astronauts need fresh nutrients that freeze-dried meals just can't ever provide. Here is the connection that ties this directly to our kitchens. The LED grow lights we use today were originally developed by NASA. In 1990, NASA funded research on using those lights to grow our healthy plants. That work continued through the 2000s, so subscribe to grow better with me. Those LED grow lights you see at every hardware store in America exist because NASA needed to grow food in space. That tech was built for space. But it works just as well in a bucket in your kitchen. Let that sink in, folks. The same engineering keeping astronauts alive 250 miles up is sitting at your local hardware store for $12. Tech meant for a journey to Mars is sitting right there between the duct tape and the extension cords. Nobody told you to grow your own herbs because nobody makes a profit when you do. Now here is where the money side gets wild. And this is the part you really need to share with your friends. Walk into any grocery store and check the fresh herb section. A small plastic container of basil, hardly an ounce, costs you $2 or $3. You're paying $40 a pound for a plant that wilts in a week, was picked days ago, and has been losing its flavor and medicinal value every hour since it was cut. Just do the math. A single packet of basil seeds costs $3 to $5. That one little packet will keep your kitchen green for months. It's not one harvest. You get a perpetual supply from the same plants. See, unlike microgreens, most of these herbs are perennial producers. You don't just harvest once and quit. I just snip what I need and the plant grows back even bushier and more productive than before. One single basil plant in a jar on my counter can produce fresh leaves for 6 months. That's like getting 30 of those expensive plastic store containers for free. We're talking $90 worth of basil from a $3 seed pack in a jar. Now imagine doing that with every herb. Mint grows so fast in water that my biggest challenge is containing it, not growing it. Cilantro, parsley, oregano, thyme, and rosemary all thrive in this simple setup too. A family growing 5 varieties might spend $20 total on seeds for a whole year of fresh herbs. But buying those herbs at the store costs $200 to $500 annually, and every single purchase is inferior to what I grow at home. The numbers are so lopsided they feel like a mistake, but they're not. There's a reason you were never taught this in school. Here is the first reason they keep quiet. Herbs don't look like farming to a culture raised on images of giant tractors and massive fields. My basil plant in a mason jar on the windowsill just doesn't fit their corporate model of food production. It won't get any big agricultural subsidies. It doesn't need heavy equipment, expensive fertilizer, or the chemical products that make those big companies billions of dollars. Every dollar I spend growing herbs at home is a dollar kept out of the industrial food chain. Here is the second secret. Growing herbs is too easy. They prove we don't need all that complexity to feed ourselves well. They can't patent my basil. There's no subscription fee for my water. You can't build a billion-dollar shipping network for something that grows faster than an Amazon package arrives. To them, simplicity is a threat. When the best food costs pennies and is easier than making coffee, it's a win. Make sure to subscribe for more. Honestly, the whole business model for those grocery store plastic-wrapped herbs just looks plain silly. Now here is reason 3. Fresh herbs spoil fast. They might last a week or two in your fridge, but they lose flavor every hour. We cannot just ship them worldwide like some dried spice. Big Ag depends on food that stays fresh on a shelf for months at a time. But a plant that is best right when you pick it, that favors us folks over giant corporations. The system does not even need to stop you from growing food. It just ignores things it cannot make money from. And most folks never learn what they were never shown. But we refuse to be ignored. Subscribe for more. Back in the year 2000, a scientist in Hawaii put out a paper that changed the game for us home growers. His name was Bernard Kratky, and he tackled a problem that most people thought was way too simple. See, most hydroponic systems need pumps, power, and timers. It is a lot of gear to keep an eye on. Those setups work sure, but they are pricey and can really scare off a beginner. Then Kratky asked a question that nobody else was even considering. What if we just skipped all that fancy junk? What if we just put some roots in nutrient water inside a sealed bucket and let nature take over? He found that as the plant drinks up that water, the level drops and leaves a little pocket of air inside. The roots in that air gap turn into air roots to breathe while the bottom ones keep drinking up minerals. That plant literally builds its own perfect home to grow in. No pumps, no power, and zero constant monitoring required. Just set it and forget it. He called this the non-circulating hydroponic method. Folks call it the Kratky method now. It is easily the simplest way to grow food ever thought up. It works like a charm for herbs since they are small, grow fast, and do not need much fuel. They are exactly the kind of crop that loves a simple water system. Florida researchers even confirmed that this is one of the easiest and cheapest ways you can grow plants without soil. No pumps, no wires, and no headaches. If you are tight on space or just starting out, this is perfect. You can use a mason jar, an old plastic tub, or even a plain old trash can. Now I promised you a 5-minute setup. Subscribe then, let's get right to it. I need you to understand one thing before I start. What I am about to show you is going to sound easy. You might think I am skipping some secret steps. I am not. The secret is that a living herb plant already knows exactly how to handle itself. We are not farming. We are not fighting nature. You are just giving a plant the 3 things it needs to do what it has done for millions of years. Mineral water, a place to hold its roots, and just a little bit of sunlight. That is it. Grab these items, like the video. First, any dark container. I often use a mason jar wrapped in tape or an old sock. An old coffee can with a hole in the lid works great too. Any plastic tub with a lid works. Trash cans, buckets, or paint cans all work fine. Just ensure it holds water and keeps the roots in total darkness. Light makes algae grow, so we want those walls to stay opaque. Your container just needs to hold water and have space for the plant. Second, a net cup. It is a little plastic basket with holes so the roots can breathe. These cost less than $1 at the store or online, folks. You can poke holes in a plastic cup to save money. Be sure to subscribe for more garden tips. Third, pick a growing medium, not soil. I usually pick those little clay pebbles called hydroton for this. $5 gets you a bag that fills dozens of these cups. Rock wool cubes work beautifully. Coconut coir works. Even perlite will do. The medium anchors our plant and keeps it moist, while those roots stretch out and dive down into the water below. Fourth, hydroponic nutrients. This might be the only part that is new to you. Usually plants just suck up minerals from the garden dirt. In our system, we need those minerals mixed right into the water. A $10 bottle of liquid nutrients will easily last through many months of continuous indoor growing. Just add a little to your water so the plant gets every mineral it needs. I suggest mixing Master Blend fertilizer, calcium nitrate, and Epsom salt together. It costs under $20 and will easily last you an entire year of heavy growing for your garden. Fifth, light. This is the part that always catches folks off guard. Herbs do not actually need sunshine. Any bright light source works. You can use a cheap LED shop light, a desk lamp, or a $12 grow panel. Even a bright windowsill usually works wonders. Most herbs need 16 hours of light daily, but a cheap $10 timer makes the whole thing easy for us. Share your setup below. Here is my growing process. Fill your container with water and add nutrients based on the bottle directions. Usually, I use about 5 milliliters for every liter of water. If your tap water has chlorine, let it sit out overnight before adding your nutrients. I place my net cup right in the opening so the bottom just barely touches the surface of the nutrient water, about a 1/4 inch deep. Now fill that cup with your clay pebbles or growing medium. Time to plant seeds. Drop 2 or 3 seeds near the center of the cup and moisten the surface gently with some water. If you start with a cutting, just thread the long roots through the cup so they hang in the water and pack your medium around the stem base. Cuttings are honestly the fastest way to start. A 4-inch cutting from a grocery store basil plant will grow roots in a week and take off within 2 weeks. Hit that like button. That is the whole setup in 5 minutes. Just place your jar under the light and let it grow. Here is what I see over the next 14 days. Now listen close because I am about to show you how to totally rewire your brain about food. If I start from seed, I see those tiny little sprouts popping up in 5 to 7 days. The stems are skinny and those first leaves are just impossibly tiny little things. By day 10, I am seeing real leaves take shape looking like baby versions of the full-grown herbs. 2 weeks in, and I have a real herb plant growing from just some water and light. Now, if I use a cutting, the whole process really speeds up for me. Within a week, I have got white roots shooting out into the water. By day 14, my cutting is already pushing out fresh new leaves. By day 21, I am harvesting. This next part is what really blew my mind the first time I saw it happen. Plucking fresh basil right off my counter and dropping it on warm pasta is a flavor no store can touch. Those oils that give basil its smell are super delicate and start disappearing the second I pick a leaf. If I eat a leaf right after I harvest it, I get the full flavor spectrum. But a leaf cut 3 days ago, packed in plastic and shipped in a truck across the country. By the time I get it from my fridge, the goodness is long gone. Think about that loss with every herb I use. No wonder restaurant chefs are so obsessed with fresh stuff. The difference between my garden and the store is not just 20%. It is a whole different world. You and I should scale this up together. Imagine 5 mason jars sitting on a simple wire shelf in my garage or a spare room. Just one cheap LED light hanging right above them. Basil and 1 mint in the next one. Cilantro, parsley, and oregano filling out the rest of my row. Inside of a month, every single jar is giving me fresh herbs. I just snip what I need and the plant grows back even bushier for me. One basil plant in a cracky jar lasts me 4 to 6 months before it slows down. Then I just take a cutting, pop it in a new jar, and start over for free. No more seeds. Continuous fresh herbs. One shelf, one light, a few jars, and a bottle of plant food. That is it. Simple as that. Let me give you a number to put this in perspective. A family of 4 buying herbs a few times a week spends about $300 a year on plastic packs. Most of that money goes to packaging, shipping, and total waste. Honestly, people throw away 40% of their store-bought herbs before they even use them. They just wilt and turn to mush in the bottom of the fridge drawer. That is over $100 a year in herbs going straight from the fridge into my trash can. But if I grow 5 varieties myself, I spend maybe $60 total on seeds and supplies all year. Under $60 for herbs that are fresher, tastier, and available to me every single day of the year. No seasons, no shipping delays, and definitely no plastic waste going into the landfill. Do not forget those antioxidant numbers. Fresh oregano has over 200,000 units per 100 grams. Fresh rosemary hits 165,000. Thyme, sage, and basil are the most powerful foods out there. Join my farm family and hit subscribe today. And I am just growing these in jars. These plants have compounds that scientists link to less inflammation, better heart health, and a stronger immune system. If you find this helpful, drop a comment. My $5 jar of basil is making stuff the big companies spend billions trying to copy. Give it a try. See, unlike those pills in a bottle, these nutrients come packaged just how your body evolved to use them, wrapped inside a living leaf with all the natural extras that help your cells soak them up. Science is finally proving that getting your nutrients from whole foods works way better than taking those isolated laboratory supplements. Your body knows real food. It doesn't always recognize pills. Now let me tell you about the big secret that folks rarely ever talk about. You rarely hear about growing herbs because a 5-jar cracky setup on your counter actually competes with 3 massive industries all at once. The global dietary supplement industry is worth $170 billion. They're selling vitamin C tablets and plastic bottles of antioxidants when the best stuff is right in the soil. Just 5 little jars of herbs deliver more nutrition than a bottle of pills, and they cost almost nothing to grow yourself. The fresh herb market is hitting nearly $6 billion every year. That is $6 billion spent on things you can easily grow in your kitchen for just a few pennies. Those dried spice jars you buy, they've likely been sitting on a shelf losing their power for months or even years. All that healthy goodness just fades away every single week. One living plant on your counter makes every one of those dusty bottles completely useless. Big corporations don't make a dime when you're growing your own medicine and flavor right there in a jar. Here is the real kicker. Combined, the global herb and spice market is worth tens of billions of dollars. And the biggest part of that growth is fresh herbs. People are finally ditching the middleman and buying direct. Folks are already spending a whole lot of money on herbs. They're just wasting cash at the store instead of growing them at home. Remember to subscribe for more garden secrets. But the movement has already started. When the shelves went empty, in 2020 thousands of folks started looking for ways to grow food indoors without needing a farm or a backyard. Indoor gardening just took off. Seed companies couldn't keep up. LED grow lights sold out fast. Folks in city apartments who had never touched soil found out they could grow fresh medicine and flavor year-round right in their own kitchens with zero experience. Communities popped up almost overnight. Groups and channels for cracky growing exploded from a few hundred folks to tens of thousands almost instantly. I've seen people posting photos of their mason jar gardens like they were proud parents showing off baby pictures. One retired teacher I know grew 12 different varieties on a simple wire shelf in her laundry room. There was even a student in Tokyo growing enough basil in his dorm to feed his entire floor for pasta night. Neighbors even started trading seeds. Office workers put jars right under their desk lamps. City folks miles from any farm were suddenly growing herbs fresher than what you'd find at the fanciest restaurant in town. I've heard parents say kids who hate veggies are suddenly snacking on fresh basil right off the plant. Click like if you agree. Watching a seed sprout in your kitchen really changes how a child looks at the food on their plate. Food isn't just some mystery item in a plastic bag from the store anymore. It's alive, they helped grow it, and they can eat it 5 seconds after picking it with their own hands. You just can't ship that experience. You can't manufacture that kind of connection. That is the real harvest, and no grocery store can ever sell you that. Let me share one last thing that ties this all together. Check our site for more. I need you to listen close because this is the most important lesson I've got for you today. We've been using medicinal herbs for over 5,000 years. From ancient clay tablets to old papyrus rolls, all the history books tell me the exact same truth. These plants really heal. Science is finally proving what us farmers have seen for ages. My oregano packs over 200,000 units of antioxidant power. Studies show that rosmarinic acid actually helps fight off nasty cancer cells. Carvacrol shuts down inflammation fast. Thymol and eugenol are like nature's own germ fighters. Every single bit of data confirms what folks knew 5,000 years ago. The pharmacy was always right in my garden. Stick with me because this part will blow your mind. Believe it or not, you do not even need a garden anymore. You do not need any land. Forget about soil sun seasons or asking anyone for a green light. Some scientist in Hawaii realized a jar of water and some minerals is all it takes. NASA gave us the LED tech to grow food in a dark closet. University experts proved that the stuff in these leaves is some of the strongest medicine ever found in food. It costs less than one dinner out, so subscribe for more garden secrets. Now, here's the secret they never wanted us to know. Food freedom does not require any land. It does not take much money. You do not need experts' fancy tools or even a growing season. The most antioxidant, dense, medically powerful, and tasty food ever tested by the government grows right in a jar under any light in any kitchen from seeds that cost me less than a coffee. Ancient healers carved herb secrets onto clay 5,000 years ago because they knew these plants were special. They just could not measure why. Egyptian doctors used these same plants to treat everything from nasty infections to painful inflammation. It took science 5,000 years to catch up to them. The government measured antioxidant levels here that make every other food look like nothing. Researchers found compounds that fight cancer, stop inflammation, protect my brain, and kickstart the immune system. NASA built the tech to grow these in space, and now I can find that same stuff at the local hardware store. See, a herb seed is more than a seed. It is a tiny packed library of healing information. Millions of years of evolution are packed into something smaller than a grain of rice, just waiting for water minerals and light to wake up. Every different variety I grow is like another book in that medicine library. My basil writes the chapter on fighting off inflammation. Oregano handles the chapter on antioxidant defense. Rosemary takes care of the chapter on brain protection. Good Old Mint writes the chapter on healthy digestion. Thyme writes the book on fighting off germs. Folks, I am not just farming. I am curating a living pharmacy that produces constantly. Hit that subscribe button to join our farm. Unlike any drugstore, this garden needs no prescription, no insurance, and has absolutely no bad side effects. That little seed already knows what to do. It has known the secret for millions of years. It just needs some water minerals and light. Only 5 minutes to set up. I harvest everything in only 14 days. I get 42 times the blueberry power. No soil, no sun, no permission needed. Just subscribe and let us start growing right now.